The cuffs were intentionally tight. Captain Elias Ward stood motionless at the center of the holding corridor. His wrists were shackled, his orange jumpsuit pressed and quiet. Around him, 9 other men mirrored his stillness. No twitching, no anxiety, just patience. They looked like inmates. As far as the guards were concerned, that's all they were. Above them, fluorescent lights buzzed with cold precision. Steel panels lined the corridor of the Imperial transport vessel, Korath 9, a cruiser retooled for prisoner extraction in the fringe systems. Every breath was monitored. Every step echoed like a warning, and none of the humans spoke unless it meant something. The guard commander, a horned reptilian named Vroth, paced in front of the line. Thick, scaled fingers tapped the tablet at his belt, flipping through biometric data. None of them are tagged military, civilian identifiers, manual labor sectors. No neural implants. His lieutenant squinted. They look organized. Looks can lie, Vroth muttered. These are Terran strays, not soldiers. Elias didn't flinch. His team held formation, as they had for the past 3 hours. Not tense, not slouched. Just waiting, like stone carved from something older. Vroth stopped in front of Elias, his breath laced with root sap and smugness. "You're the leader, aren't you?" Elias blinked once, slowly. "I'm their observer. Leadership depends on context." Vroth growled, already irritated. "You humans talk in riddles. We caught you. You're in chains. It's over." "Then stop watching us," Elias replied. That landed deeper than expected. Vroth spun and stalked off. One guard stayed behind to lock the system down. A faint beep echoed confirmation. The force fields activated with a sterile hum. Elias spoke only after they were gone. "Phase 1 ends tonight." To his left, Sato cracked his neck. "About damn time." "They buying it?" Briggs asked from behind. Elias didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said enough. The Korath 9 was a riot-proof prison ship, not built to detect coordinated resistance. The orange jumpsuits, the silence. No one questioned it. No one wondered why civilians weren't crying or begging. The Empire thought they had captured fear, but Earth knew something different. Patience was a weapon. Malik adjusted his boot. The sound barely registered. A scuffed squeak. But it was deliberate. 3 short, 2 long. A signal. From the back, Calder tapped a reply. Uplink node beneath block Gamma confirmed. The relay would blind internal sensors for 20 seconds every 30 minutes. "Just enough," Calder said. "Then we're ready," Elias nodded. Above, the lights flickered for a fraction of a second. Meaningless to most, critical to those watching. Deep in the ship, a small drone, no larger than a playing card, unfolded from a service duct. It moved silently, triggered by a signal from Elias's heartbeat over a day ago. It carried no weapons. It carried something far more dangerous. Code. Elias sat. His cuffs hadn't been unlocked. They had been rerouted. The biometric scanners looped false vitals back to the system. The ship thought they hadn't moved for 3 hours. To Earth, that was the go signal. "Prep override?" Briggs asked. "Let them feel safe," Elias said. "It's more effective." Effective for what? For remembering. A quiet fell between them, the kind that settles before storms. Footsteps returned. Vroth again, irritated, unsettled. He studied Elias like he expected submission to look like weakness. That was his mistake. "You're oddly calm, Terran." Elias gave a half nod. "So are thunderclouds. Right before they break." Vroth scoffed, but the bravado had cracks now. Doubt seeped in. Still shackled, Elias stared forward. He had learned long ago that silence was the bait. Let the enemy fill the void with arrogance. Let them see what they expected instead of what was real. This time Vroth brought someone else, an officer clad in chrome-gray armor with the symbol of the Sir Cully War Commission on his shoulder. Eyes sharp, calculating, and uncertain. The officer stepped to the force field. "Name? Ward? Elias." Voice calm. "Just loud enough." "No more." The officer flipped through a pad. "Civilian registration, asteroid miner, no military record." "False records are safer," Elias replied. "Truth dies in war. You're calm for a prisoner. So are thunderstorms." Right before Enough riddles, Vroth interrupted. Why aren't your men panicking? Elias glanced at his shackles. You're watching the wrong thing. Watch the eyes. The officer stiffened. You let yourselves get captured? We wanted to see what you'd do. Now you've answered. It's our turn. You've done nothing. Exactly. Resistance is noise. We watched, learned, waited. Another flicker passed through the lights. Sato blinked once. Calder tilted his head. Elias didn't move. The drone had reached the AOI relay. It didn't carry explosives. It carried control. The officer frowned. You're not soldiers. You're not augmented. What are you? Elias stood slowly. The cuffs clinked, but not because they were locked. The bioscanners fed empty signals. I was born on a colony with too little air. We rationed water with blood codes. Burned trash to keep warm. The loud die fast. The quiet survive. You're not here to win, the officer said. Number, we're here to remind you what losing feels like. The force field buzzed faintly. Vroth stepped forward. We'll shut you down one by one. You can try. You'll just show us more of your ship. The officer stared deeper. He saw it. The way Elias tracked movement, how his team hadn't shifted yet, communicated silently. They were ahead. 10 seconds ahead. The countdown had begun. Sato tapped his foot. 3 short, 2 long. Go! Across the ship, systems began to unravel. Gravity drifted by microns. Life support lagged a nanosecond. Lights cycled out of sync. Atmosphere sensors pinged ghosts. Engineers saw noise. Elias's team saw a clock. The officer turned, issuing quiet orders. Vroth hissed. Say it now. What are you planning? This isn't revenge, Elias said. It's analysis. We're here to study how you break, and to teach you how we do it. Far below, the drone completed its task. The first blackout swept the bridge. Lights didn't flicker. They vanished. So did control. The lights on Kareth 9 didn't dim. They surrendered. Entire corridors sank into shadow while the climate systems wavered. Humid 1 second, dry the next. On the command deck, displays flickered, stuttered, and began replaying footage from hours ago. Faces that had left were suddenly back. The AI couldn't understand the contradiction, so it did what machines do when cornered. It checked itself. Nothing triggered alarms. That was the beauty of it. The system didn't think it was under attack. It thought it was malfunctioning, confused, harmless, routine. Elias Ward sat still in the brig, hands folded, posture relaxed. The guards passed him again, unaware the temperature had changed, or that a strange frequency now pulsed through the vents every 17 seconds. Calder leaned his head back, tapped his foot. Earth code loop, status check, route map, inventory update. Beneath their boots, Deck 7 rerouted a sliver of oxygen into an unused storage pod. Not enough to notice, just enough to move a node. Once moved, it could listen. Human sabotage didn't look like sabotage. That was his genius. On the bridge, Commander Vroth slammed his fist on a console. Why are the blast doors cycling diagnostics? Why are unrelated systems linked? An engineer, pale and shaking, admitted the truth. The system thinks it's checking itself. Elias cracked a knuckle in his cell. We're in, he said. Sato nodded. Environmental nodes are active. Command AI is seeing ghosts. Briggs adjusted his cuffs. They gonna notice? They'll feel it before they know it, Elias said. And by then, they'll be explaining it to their bosses, not fixing it. The drone had now become something else. It wasn't just feeding the AI false information. It was training it to doubt itself, creating phantom shifts, imaginary crew rotations, rewriting cafeteria routines to Earth jazz. By the 3rd hour, someone finally asked out loud why the prisoners were still calm. In the dark surveillance room, a junior officer stared at looping footage. They haven't moved, she said. But they had. The real movements were spliced out, replaced with perfect stillness. Their efficiency already rewiring the ship's memory. Elias's cuffs had been disabled hours ago. The override was hidden in his boot's sole, disguised as orthopedic gel. Enzo built it back on Earth. He was in Cell 4C, smiling to himself. Let me know when route control is open, he said to no one in particular. 5 minutes, Calder replied. A guard turned. What did you say? Nothing, Calder replied with the kind of face nobody remembered. The guard moved on. 10 seconds later, the surveillance node above Cell 4C blinked off. Just long enough. Enzo slid the tablet piece from the vent, tapped it, one short, one long, 3 quick pulses. Engineering systems dropped into diagnostic loop. On the bridge, controls started graying out. Manual inputs failed. Settings reset to pre-launch defaults. "Commander, we're accelerating," someone whispered. "We're not cleared for acceleration," Vroth snapped. "Then who the hell is flying the ship?" In the brig, Elias stood. No alarms, no red lights, no resistance. The system still thought he was shackled. He stretched, rolled his shoulders, and looked around. Status: all systems shifting. AI is sleeping. Diagnostics feeding false data to all decks. No live feeds, Briggs confirmed. Navigation: still locked, said Sato. The lights on Kareth 9 didn't dim. They surrendered. Entire corridors sank into shadow while the climate systems wavered. Humid 1 second, dry the next. On the command deck, displays flickered, stuttered, and began replaying footage from hours ago. Faces that had left were suddenly back. The AI couldn't understand the contradiction. So it did what machines do when cornered. It checked itself. Nothing triggered alarms. That was the beauty of it. The system didn't think it was under attack. It thought it was malfunctioning, confused, harmless, routine. Elias Ward sat still in the brig, hands folded, posture relaxed. The guards passed him again, unaware the temperature had changed or that a strange frequency now pulsed through the vents every 17 seconds. Calder leaned his head back, tapped his foot. Earth code loop, status check, route map, inventory update. Beneath their boots, Deck 7 rerouted a sliver of oxygen into an unused storage pod. Not enough to notice, just enough to move a node. Once moved, it could listen. Human sabotage didn't look like sabotage. That was its genius. On the bridge, Commander Vroth slammed his fist on a console. Why are the blast doors cycling diagnostics? Why are unrelated systems linked? An engineer, pale and shaking, admitted the truth. The system thinks it's checking itself. Elias cracked a knuckle in his cell. "We're in," he said. Sato nodded. "Environmental nodes are active. Command AI is seeing ghosts." Briggs adjusted his cuffs. "They gonna notice?" "They'll feel it before they know it," Elias said. "And by then, they'll be explaining it to their bosses, not fixing it." The drone had now become something else. It wasn't just feeding the AI false information. It was training it to doubt itself, creating phantom shifts, imaginary crew rotations, rewriting cafeteria routines to Earth jazz. By the third hour, someone finally asked out loud why the prisoners were still calm. In the dark surveillance room, a junior officer stared at looping footage. "They haven't moved," she said. But they had. The real movements were spliced out, replaced with perfect stillness, their efficiency already rewiring the ship's memory. Elias's cuffs had been disabled hours ago. The override was hidden in his boot's sole, disguised as orthopedic gel. Enzo built it back on Earth. He was in Cell 4C, smiling to himself. "Let me know when route control is open," he said to no one in particular. 5 minutes, Calder replied. A guard turned. "What did you say?" "Nothing," Calder replied with the kind of face nobody remembered. The guard moved on. 10 seconds later, the surveillance node above Cell 4C blinked off. Just long enough. Enzo slid the tablet piece from the vent, tapped it, one short, one long, 3 quick pulses. Engineering systems dropped into diagnostic loop. On the bridge, controls started graying out. Manual inputs failed. Settings reset to pre-launch defaults. "Commander, we're accelerating," someone whispered. "We're not cleared for acceleration," Vroth snapped. "Then who the hell is flying this ship?" In the brig, Elias stood. No alarms, no red lights, no resistance. The system still thought he was shackled. He stretched, rolled his shoulders, and looked around. Status: all systems shifting. AI is sleeping. Diagnostics feeding false data to all decks. No live feeds, Briggs confirmed. Navigation: still locked, said Sato. Enzo's working on it, Elias replied. 5 minutes, came a voice from Cell 4C. Elias stared at the shield. It hummed softly. It had failed an hour ago. The prisoners were no longer locked in. They were waiting. Empire Command sent a ping. It hit a half-second delay. Not much, but enough. A merchant pilot 5 sectors away paused. Is that Earth jazz on a military frequency? Back on Kareth 9, the sublight drive tech froze. We're accelerating, she whispered. And that was when Vroth said it. The line that would be repeated in hearings and whispered across backwater stations. Then who the hell is flying this ship? Below deck, Elias cracked a smile. We are. He stood at the edge of the now silent brig. The shield was cold, deactivated 20 minutes earlier, rerouted into a fake maintenance loop that Enzo had fed to the AI. None of the guards had noticed, none of them could, because the ship had stopped obeying them, and it had started obeying someone else. On the bridge, Vroth was unraveling. Every order came louder, more frantic. Get me engineering. Get me anyone who knows why the ship is running itself. There were no answers, just static, just jazz. Now it was John Coltrane, smooth, steady, deeply human. In the shadows of the engine bay, Enzo crouched beside a coolant valve. His screen flashed its final error code. Bridge relay severed, control rerouted. Navigation is ours, he whispered into comms. Elias blinked once. Acknowledged. Full blackout in 10. Move at 0. Sato nodded. Bridge optional? They're already out of the game. Briggs looked over. Then what's the goal? Elias tilted his head. Message. The guards stood frozen now, watching footage of prisoners still seated, still shackled, still docile. One leaned over, voice cracking. They haven't moved in hours. Why does that feel worse than if they were fighting? In another corridor, a technician whispered into his comm. Prisoners are still secured visually, but oxygen logs say otherwise. Air compression shows movement, patterned. Back on Earth, in a war room buried beneath the Andes, General Cale Holt watched the schematic of Kareth 9. He sipped his coffee. She's singing, he said. The team hadn't just taken the ship. They'd transformed it. Kareth 9 was no longer a prison transport. It was a broadcast tower. Civilian satellites across Empire space began picking up audio spliced with data. Confessions, interrogations, war crimes, testimonies from colonies buried under Empire silence. And every pulse carried a quiet tag. Humanity is listening. Trays of untouched food vibrated as the internal gravity shifted again. Elias and his team moved through the halls, not running, not hiding, just walking. Briggs looked at Elias. You ever think about what they're feeling right now? Elias didn't break stride. They're still asking how. They haven't even started asking why. On the bridge, Vroth stood before the central interface, his breath ragged. The console no longer glowed Empire red. It glowed white. Earth standard. One word appeared on the screen. Observe. He slammed his fist on the panel. What the hell does that mean? From the doorway, a voice answered. It means you're not in command anymore. Vroth turned. Elias Ward stood in the doorway. 5 other humans at his back. No weapons, none needed. Elias stepped forward, hands in his pockets. Do you know why we didn't fire a shot? Because violence is noise. It distorts the message. The message that we are not what your history says. We are not the unpredictable ones. We are not the savages, Vroth snarled. You nearly destroyed yourselves before you reached the stars. Elias smiled, and we learned from it. We don't need empires or fleets. We just need to be underestimated. A bridge officer turned, eyes wide. Why are you doing this? Elias looked at him, not unkind. Because you took our men and thought the war was over. But this was the war, and you never knew you'd already lost. The lights dimmed one final time. Kareth 9 no longer spoke in Empire code. It hummed in Terran dialect. The ship had switched languages and loyalties and purpose, all without a single alarm. Elias stood on the command deck, alone for now but not isolated. His team had spread out across the ship like they had always belonged there. Enzo sat cross-legged in the captain's chair, flipping through recompiled code on a stolen data pad. Calder leaned against the far wall, sipping something that might have been tea or coolant. Briggs adjusted the ship's ambient audio feed. The jazz shifted from Coltrane to Miles Davis. Elias walked slowly, fingertips grazing the consoles. The displays no longer pulsed in red. Now they breathed in warm white and soft blue, Earth's palette. "Status report," Elias asked. Sato didn't look up. "AI is compliant. It thinks we're senior officers running an extended sim. No alerts triggered. External comms? Encrypted, tethered to Earth's relays. No jamming yet. Drone net?" Briggs answered that one. 79% deployment complete. Footage is already hitting the channels. That part mattered most. The drones weren't weapons. They weren't bombs. They were evidence. Thousands of micro-units launched silently from Kareth 9's wasteports. Each carried truth, data packets of intercepted transmissions, visuals from colony raids, records of sterilization protocols, economic sabotage, and the quiet erasure of whole populations. Everything cataloged, time-stamped, verified. There were no threats in the broadcast, no propaganda, just the one thing every empire feared: receipts. In the brig, the Serkali officers now sat in stunned silence. The cells still hummed with energy, but the humans had flipped the polarity. The shields held the guards now. Vroth hadn't spoken in over an hour. He sat slouched, scales dull, stripped of insignia. He blinked slowly, trying to blink the reality away. The door opened. Elias stepped in, holding a tablet. Calm, quiet. "Captain Ward," Vroth rasped, "you've made your point. You've made your point." Elias placed the tablet on the bench. It played an endless loop. Empire generals signing secret orders, governors using the word expendable, footage of Terran miners dissected in the name of xenogenetics. Elias looked at the screen, not Vroth. "I haven't made my point yet." Vroth swallowed hard. "This will destabilize everything. That's the idea. You can't control what comes next. We're not trying to." Elias stepped toward the exit, then paused. "You didn't capture soldiers, Commander. You captured architects. This wasn't a rescue. This was exposure." Vroth muttered behind him. "What do you plan to leave behind?" Elias didn't turn. Nothing. He lied. Because something had already been left behind. A signal. Hours later, aboard a neutral vessel crossing the Asari border, a merchant captain tuned into an emergency frequency. The screen flickered, then cleared. 4 words glowed in Terran script. "Control is not taken. It is given by mistake." That night, 37 planetary governors called emergency sessions. 11 factions cut trade ties with the Empire. 3 sent silent nods to Earth Command. No reply came. Back aboard Kareth 9, the transformation was complete. From the outside, it still bore the Empire's crest. But inside, it had changed. The AI, the life support, the navigation lattice, everything now ran on Earth's architecture. The walls no longer echoed with submission. They pulsed with intent. The ship had been rewritten in a human dialect. Its default interface now began each query with a quiet phrase. "Would you like to begin debriefing?" Across the galaxy, in the Galactic Council chamber on Vormerus Prime, silence spread like a plague. 500 delegates sat beneath the crystalline dome. Species, systems, factions, all waiting. They had seen the footage, heard the jazz, watched the lies unravel in real time. And now Earth had sent a representative. No guards, no titles, no weapons. Mara-Jan walked into the chamber wearing a plain black suit and silence-like armor. She carried a small case and moved without urgency. She did not represent power. She represented consequences. At the podium, she placed the case down and opened it. "I won't waste your time," she began. Her voice was low but carried across the room like a thundercloud held in check. "You saw what we do when ignored. Now you'll see what we do when listened to." From the case, she lifted a relic, an earthstone tablet scarred by time. It dated back to the 21st century BC. The inscription glowed above the chamber in dozens of languages. "We did not start this war, but we will end it with your name etched into the ash." She didn't let the silence fester. "We didn't come here to negotiate. That was 300 years ago. You ignored us. Now we're here to conclude the interview." A Croci ambassador stood, claws clicking. "This is blackmail." Mara tilted her head slightly. Number, this is a resume. Another delegate, gray and shaking, asked the question they were all thinking. What do you want? Mara scanned the room. You already gave us what we wanted the moment you thought we were weak. We want nothing, but now you want something. She tapped her data pad. Every delegate's implant lit up. Every tablet, screen, and display flared to life. Drone footage streamed across the galaxy. Civilian feeds, diplomatic backdoors, every channel now humming with evidence. War crimes, suppression, forced disappearances. You wanted silence, she said. What you got was memory. We want acknowledgement. We want you to understand that the age of assuming humanity will be polite is over. You don't have to fear us. Just understand us. From the gallery, a voice rose. Familiar. Broken. Commander Vroth, escorted by 2 Earth agents, stepped forward. No rank, no command. I led Kareth 9, he said, voice low. I thought they were savages. I mocked them, laughed at their calm, then I watched them take everything, without raising their voices, without firing a shot, and I realized something. We were never in control, not even when we captured them. He turned to the council. They didn't want war. They came to study us, and we failed the test. Silence held the chamber again, until the Chancellor finally rose. Earth is hereby acknowledged as a sovereign force. Their agents and citizens are to be released immediately. Reparations to be discussed. No Empire vessel shall engage a Terran craft without Council authorization. Mara nodded once. It's a start. She walked away. No fanfare. No applause. A week later, Empire crews boarded the abandoned Kareth 9. They scanned every corridor, every panel, every conduit. No humans remained. No booby traps. No malware. Just one data pad left behind, resting in the command chair. 4 words glowed on its screen. Now do you understand? Back on Earth, in a command room that didn't officially exist, Elias Ward reviewed new dossiers. Phase 4, future missions. Mara stood beside him, sipping tea. They think it's over, he said. She smiled. It was never about war. Then what was it? She looked at him. An interview. And we just got the job. Across the galaxy, the message spread like a crack through glass. Not a scream, not a warning. A whisper, a knowing. Don't touch the humans. They're already inside. On isolated moons, trade stations, mining belts, and military outposts. Commanders whispered the same question. How long had they been preparing? And the worst one, what else have they already seen? Kareth 9 drifted in quiet orbit beyond the Imperial security perimeter near Sector 12 Gamma. From the outside, it still wore the armor of the Empire. It looked like a ghost ship, empty, silent, but the entire command architecture had been rewritten. The hull still bore the Circali crest, but every signal it sent, every interface within, spoke in Earth dialects. The AI now greeted visitors in calm, familiar tones. Would you like to begin debriefing? Inside the ship's echoing chambers, the soft hum of repurposed circuits pulsed like a heartbeat. Miles Davis faded out. The silence left behind wasn't emptiness. It was intention. The message had landed. Not as a threat, as proof. They hadn't destroyed anything. They had simply turned on the lights, and what those lights revealed was enough. Empire systems reeled. Civilian networks flooded with data. Planetary populations, long fed the myth of Terran savagery, now saw the truth in high-definition clarity. Not soldiers, not monsters. Just people who were underestimated one time too many. In the inner circles of Imperial Command, old debates restarted under new panic. Contingency plans collapsed under the weight of doubt. There were no clear targets, no open declarations of war, just silence, just jazz. Earth responded to no inquiries, made no demands, and that absence was more terrifying than fire. The Empire's diplomats received a final encrypted file, time-stamped from Kareth 9. Inside, no ultimatums, no threats, just logs. Audio of governors discussing population culling, surveillance clips of prisoners experimented on, internal memos referencing Earth as manageable. That word repeated, manageable. The Empire hadn't just failed to defeat humans. They had failed to understand them. And now every system that assumed humans were weak had to ask the question, how much of their infrastructure was already compromised? The answer was unsettling. No alarms had been tripped. No code red. The Kareth-9 hadn't been hacked. It had been redesigned. Quietly, elegantly, efficiently. Its AI architecture now housed in hybrid Terran logic, running simulations within simulations, tracking every incoming signal through a human lens. Every door still opened. Every system still obeyed. But no one could predict what it might say next. And deep inside Earth's Black Site Command Center, Elias Ward stood at a clear wall, watching stars drift. "We sent no bombs," he said. Mara stood beside him. "We didn't need to. We gave them their own voice back, just slightly louder, and just enough off-key. They'll be rewriting protocols for a decade, if they make it that long." He turned from the stars. "How long before Phase 5? Mara didn't answer right away. Let the silence sit. Then softly, "We wait." He raised an eyebrow. "That's it? That's always it," she said. "We let them think it's over. Then we observe what they do next." Elias walked the length of the room, past consoles humming with passive surveillance feeds. Systems from across the stars, civilian channels, diplomatic archives, all flooding into Earth Command. No firewalls breached, no weapons drawn, just invitations. Humanity had stopped asking for a seat at the table. Now they were conducting the interviews. A board Kareth-9, a final system routine initiated. AI logged the departure of all Terran personnel, cleared security logs, stored one final note in its active memory core. A single sentence. Observation complete. New parameters pending. Somewhere in the deep, a neutral trader picked up a faint ping from the Kareth-9. He played it out of curiosity. What he heard was music. Just music. But halfway through the recording, the song paused. A voice cut in. Plain, human, calm. "We're not here to conquer. We're just making sure someone finally listens." Then the jazz resumed.